Y'all remember this time last year when the Trump administration brought over that group of white South Africans claiming they were facing racial persecution and injustice in their home country? I have an update. Out that the majority of them are struggling here in the United States. They are only given $2,000 a month, which typically their rent eats up, so they have no more funds for food, transportation, anything extra. They're living in roach infested apartments. They are living in an unsafe area. It's almost as if the United States is oppressive. Tried to tell y'all. And if anything, this just further goes to show that there are flaws within our immigration system, flaws within our asylum system. There are flaws. It's not the people, it's the system. This is what happens when our politicians are more interested in using immigration as a talking point, as a tool for election, rather than an actual issue that needs to be addressed rather immediately.
Welcome. Welcome to the United States of America. It is such an honor for us to receive you here today. This is the land of the free. It makes me so happy to see you with our flag in your hands, and that flag symbolizes liberty for so many of us. Many of us, our families, have had a journey not that different from the journey that you are embarking on today. Any adjustment in life, any change takes a while to get used to. But I want you all to know that you are really welcome here, and that we respect what you have had to deal with these last few years. We respect the long tradition of your people and what you have accomplished over the years, and I am sure that you will be successful. It's, as you know, a lot of you, I think, are farmers, right? When you have quality seeds, you can put them in foreign soil and they will blossom, they will bloom. And we are excited to welcome you here to our country, where we think you will bloom, and we will hopefully allow you to have fulfilling lives for your children, and then we will bloom and we will benefit alongside you.
You may recall last year we reported on the Trump administration's decision to limit the number of refugees entering the United States. That number was set at 7,500, a significant cut from the Biden era. In addition, the administration is prioritizing white South Africans for admission, a group it says faces persecution at home, something the South African government disputes. Well, now an investigation from the Free Press shows many of those white South Africans, also known as Afrikaners, are barely scraping by because of what they say are failures in U.S. government systems. Madeline Rowley is an investigative reporter for the Free Press, and she joins us now from Virginia to talk about this. And we should note the Free Press and CBS News share a parent company in Paramount Skydance. Madeline, good morning. Talk to us about the conditions some of these refugees say they are experiencing, because the administration made it seem as if they were being prioritized. They are a special group.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me on. Yes, I spoke to 10 South African refugees who told me that, they came to the U.S. hoping for a better life, a better situation, just as other refugees. And the government contracts with 7 refugee resettlement agencies that are paid hundreds of millions of dollars per year to provide safe, sanitary, and affordable housing. And unfortunately, what I heard from these Afrikaner refugees is that they're spending weeks in motels in unsafe areas. They're being offered housing that is full of mold, apartments that are full of mold in expensive areas. So each refugee is allotted $2,000, and all of that has been going to rent. So they're really left with nothing. And these agencies are supposed to help them apply to jobs, obtain temporary benefits such as SNAP and Medicaid, and basically other people from the community, like neighbors, are having to step in because they just, in some cases, can't even get a hold of their resettlement agencies.
And Madeline, what jumps out to me about what you're saying is we have this almost split screen between what you're describing their life is like now and how they looked in May of 2025 when they were being welcomed here. They were holding American flags. They had smiles on their faces. When you asked refugee groups about these issues with the resettlement process, what are they telling you? How common is this?
Well, from what I could tell, there is an entire network of people as they come. People I spoke to came as soon as 2 weeks ago. And what they do is, they have a network through social media groups and WhatsApp, and they're all realizing oh no, I'm stuck in this hotel. I only have a certain amount of food. They don't have transportation. They don't have the right clothing. I talked to 3 refugees who are in Detroit. It's very cold there. They do not have coats. So they're realizing that they really feel alone.
Hey, welcome back to True Verdicts. Today, we are driven into a controversial and emotional story, the arrival of Afrikaner refugees from South Africa who claim they are victims of white genocide and what happened after they arrived in the United States. Stay with us as we separate deception from reality.
In fact, media reports suggest that the U.S. booked dozens of seats for Afrikaner refugees, but only 3 actually rocked up. And I wonder if this is a signal that there's a large rejection of this refugee status. Some, from the media reports I've seen, have also started coming back to South Africa.
No, indeed. I mean, there are media reports, especially in the Afrikaans media, of some of the first group of refugees who went to the US and actually feel quite disillusioned. It's not as easy there as here in South Africa, especially if they run into medical difficulties and do not have health insurance in the US. That is an absolute nightmare. Not that our system is perfect, but there are places where it can be even harsher. And also, refugee status means you can't return to your friends and family. You're not going to come back for holidays and Christmas.
That's not how refugee statuses work.
No, and also...
In fact, you left because you fled instability, isn't it?
No, precisely. I mean, how many refugees in war zones have the time to still sell off their possessions and get their things in order? And that is also part of what we are trying to debunk. What does it mean to be a refugee? In our case, or in South Africans' case, all South Africans face concerns and challenges. But we are not in a war zone. We are most definitely not fleeing for our lives in the same way that people in Gaza and Sudan are fleeing for their lives.
How do you think Trump's project plays into this narrative about white identity being under an existential threat?
Well, that's part of the main point. I don't think they care about Afrikaners at all. I don't think they know much about Afrikaners, actually. And what they are doing is to peddle this narrative of, look what happens to whites when they become a minority. Forgetting that Afrikaners have always been a minority in this country. But they are fear-mongering that the US might not be majority white by 2050. There's fear-mongering in Europe that migration and multiculturalism means that, again, the local populations will lose their majority status. And hence then they point to, in inverted commas, the hardships of this particular white minority. Minority status has always been the case. So it's being taken out of context in order to drive right-wing propaganda. And again, that is why we penned this open letter, because it doesn't reflect our values.
Feel-good story of the week. So you guys remember all the stuff about the South African refugees to the USA. I mean, of course you do. It's a really funny story that we've all known about and loved. Like the supposed victims of the white genocide in South Africa. So Trump started inviting them to come to the USA on the basis that there is supposedly a white genocide in South Africa that they are fleeing from. And some of these white South Africans took him up on this offer. And one of the families who took this offer apparently went to the USA thinking that, like, they would be given, like, a house, they would be given, like, money, like, they would be given, like, the full service experience from the US government upon arriving. But what actually happened is they arrived, and they can't get a job, and now they're like, help, we need help, someone help us, this sucks, we want to go home. Story here. Afrikaner family stranded in the USA after seeking refuge, appeals for help online. An Afrikaner refugee family has washed up in Montana, US, and they have taken to social media of all places to ask for help. The story was dropped by a South African expat on TikTok. This was definitely written by ChatGPT because of the way it's written. You know, where global crisis meets lip syncs and dance challenges. I'm going to read the factual parts and ignore the fucking unfunny commentary shit. In recent weeks, not one but 2 groups of South Africans have claimed refugee status in the US, and they went to a 3-star hotel in Montana. I think the video was deleted. Okay, here's a better article on the same story. So the South African expat TikToker revealed that she came across an Afrikaner refugee family in dire need of help. The family of 4 was stranded at a hotel with no food, money, or a cell phone. They own a farm in South Africa. Isn't the whole thing the farmers are being killed? How do they have no money if they own a farm? What happened there? The woman said of the refugees, they were understanding that they would be arriving here for complete assistance. People thought they would be arriving at a house, a job, medical insurance, and other things. It isn't that way at all. Because of the political situation, they are really struggling to get jobs. The woman revealed that she had left South Africa more than a decade ago, but had gone through a lengthy process. She also criticized Afrikaner refugees for having unrealistic expectations. She continued, "One side of me is like, fuck that. My husband and I went through all this red tape and we got our visas. We've been here 10 years. We did everything the right way. Here, these people, regardless of what they were promised, just came here expecting everything. No help from the South African embassy. I mean, you said you're fleeing the South African government. You said you're fleeing them. You said the government is killing you. You said they're genociding you. Why are you seeking help from them? Why?" That's so funny.
Did you see this video of this woman from South Africa talking about how on a Facebook group she saw that Afrikaner refugees here in the U.S. are struggling and are thinking about going back?
Family of refugees has been placed in this town, and they have had like no food. I know that there's this, I don't know what to think because I didn't really follow it at all when it happened, but I think they were of the understanding that they were going to be arriving here to like complete assistance, and I think people here thought that they were going to be arriving to a house and a job and medical insurance and a whole bunch of other stuff, and it actually isn't that way at all. There have been like 4 adults in a hotel room with no money, no cell phone, no anything, and like the humanitarian in me, I can't ignore the fact that these people are struggling, but there's this one side of me that's like, fuck that.
If you hadn't heard the story, Trump has been letting Afrikaner refugees, heavy on the quotes, into the U.S. They came here with the lie that the South African government is persecuting them because they're white. So at a time where Trump is not allowing any refugees to come into the country, he is allowing Afrikaners into the country. And like this article perfectly states, they're not refugees, they're opportunists. And these opportunists really thought that when they got to the U.S., they were going to get a house, a job, a car, a cell phone, health insurance completely paid for. They really thought that Daddy Donnie was going to take taxpayer money and give it to them. You know, believing all those lies that people of color come to the U.S. to seek refugee or asylum, and then they have it on easy street, which, surprise, surprise, it's not true. And it doesn't matter how much those South Africans hate it here, they can't just go back home. Like the Department of International Relations said, these Afrikaner refugees cannot just go back to South Africa or get assistance from South Africa because they're supposed to be under the protection of the United States and Donald Trump. And if these Afrikaner refugees want to be welcomed back as citizens, they have to revoke their status in order for this to happen. So if these Afrikaners are struggling in the U.S. and they want to go back home, basically they have to admit, we lied. I think it's kind of humorous to me that their lies have backfired on them and that Donald Trump has left them stranded. However, it's very frustrating that people who actually have to seek asylum and refuge in the U.S. because they're trying to escape danger and persecution are not being allowed in, but these opportunists are being fast-tracked.
To the 50 Afrikaners who fled to the U.S. calling themselves refugees, you are not refugees. You are just a case study of white flight dressed up as martyrdom. You're not escaping violence, you're escaping equality. South Africa didn't chase you away. You ran. Yes, South Africa is one of the most violent countries in the world. Yes, brutality exists. But let's be honest, violence affects all communities, not just white farmers. Black, colored, Indian, and yes, white people are all targets of a national crime crisis. What we have is a breakdown in safety, not a white genocide. This is not ethnic cleansing, it's criminal collapse, and running to the US won't fix it. You are part of a 7% minority, but somehow still manages to control over 70% of the wealth. That is not persecution, that's privilege on a guilt trip. And let's be real, if we tried to relocate just half of the Afrikaans population, it would take decades, billions in logistics, and you'd still end up culturally homeless in a country that don't want your apartheid baggage. You're not brave, you're not victims. You're scared of a world where you don't get to be in charge, and that makes the rest of the Afrikaans community cringe, because you make us look weak. South Africa is broken, and it's our problem to solve. So if you don't have the spine to do so, stay gone.
Afrikaner a white ethnic group in South Africa, largely descended from Dutch settlers. Many are farmers, business owners, and professionals. In recent years, some Afrikaner activists have claimed that white South Africans have been systematically targeted, a claim often referred to as white genocide. However, the government has repeatedly denied the existence of any genocide, stating that while crime affects all race groups, there is no state-sponsored campaign against white citizens. Trump administration publicly raised concern about land reform and violence against white farmers in South Africa. The Trump administration gave priority consideration to some Afrikaner asylum seekers, citing humanitarian concern. This move sparked debate in the U.S., especially when many other refugee groups around the world are facing tight restrictions. For some Afrikaners who relocated to America last year, expectations were high. Many believe housing assistance will be provided long time, jobs will be ready available, health insurance will be covered, government support will be substantial. Instead, reports indicate that some families receive around $2,000 in initial assistance, fund that was quickly consumed by rent deposits and living expenses. American cost of living shook many newcomers. Rent, utility, food, insurance, everything adding up quickly. American dream, they say, didn't come with a manual. Without stable employment or extended government aid, some American families now finding themselves struggling. Unlike what they may have expected, refugees resettlement in America typically provide short-term support, not lifetime benefit. And going back to South Africa is not as simple as it sounds. If they publicly reverse their asylum claim, they risk damaging their credibility, facing legal consequence, losing protection status. Some now face caught between two countries, not fully secure in America, yet unable to return easily home. This story raised deep questions. Were refugees' claims exaggerated? Were expectations unrealistic? Did politics influence humanitarian decisions? What does this mean for America's refugee system? Immigration policy is complex. Refugee status is serious, and political narrative often shape public perception. But reality on ground can be very different from campaign speech. At Truth Verdict, we don't pick side. We present facts and perspective. Were these Afrikaner refugees misled? Did politics create false hope? Or is this simple the harsh reality of starting over in a new country? Full credit goes to the teaching video used in this documentary. If you find this documentary insightful, subscribe to True Verdicts, like this video, share it with your friend, and comment. Tell us what you think. Should refugee priorities be influenced by politics? This is True Verdict. See you in the next one. Bye.